But first off, Mark, tell me a little bit about, you're part of an organization and you're president of Hope Fort Worth. Tell me what that is. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so this happened relatively recently. I've worked for a couple years now for a nonprofit organization called Hope Fort Worth, and just in January, I had the opportunity to step in as president, which is super cool. I'm really living the dream, literally in my dream job, and it's amazing. So what we do as an organization is really our focus is to help kids that don't have families, and there's probably no more simple way to say that, but there's all around us in our community, in Texas, in our state, in our nation, in this world, there's for lots of different reasons. There's kids that don't have families, and I'm going to take the probably not so controversial point of view here and say that that's not good. And we just really think that every kid deserves a family. It's really one of my favorite quotes. I like this organization here called Be Loved. Their whole motto is that every child deserves to be loved, and that's so simple and so true, but all around us in our communities, all throughout, like I said, Texas, United States, and the world, there's kids that don't have that opportunity. And of course, that's a simple belief, but I would really even take it further than that. Most of these kids that don't have an opportunity to have a family, they really struggle in life because of the trauma that they face that affects how their brain develops, and they've faced some really difficult things like rejection, and many of them have been abused, and all that results in them having some major hurdles stacked against them in life. And so our goal is that we help them find forever families that will love them unconditionally, that will support them and help them navigate those hurdles so that they can find success, because they deserve it. They're not in this position because of their decisions. It's 100% other adults in their lives' decisions that have put them in this place. And so we would consider them, the most vulnerable. And so we want to do everything that we can to help.
So, Mark, tell me, with this process of getting these kids into these forever homes, I've definitely heard different ways you've worded this, but how does that work? What's your strategy for actually helping these kids?
Right now, just in the state of Texas, there's twice as many churches, and I'm not saying Christians. There's twice as many churches as there are kids that are in care and state care and in
Wow.
foster care. And so it really seems like if the church would sort of engage in something that's really foundational to who they are, we could make a really major impact on what's happening in child welfare and with these kids' lives. And so our strategy is to engage churches. And so we engage with the faith-based community, with churches, and we work to inspire them to action. And our hope is simply this, that really ideally every church is engaged. I know that maybe that's not super realistic, but if 10 to 15% of churches in every city would engage and actively create a culture in their church of caring for vulnerable children, we'd really flip this thing upside down and make it healthy. And so
Okay, so now let's flip the tables have turned recently a little bit, right? So,
the Rona.
um, what has happened since the quarantine? How's that changed how you operate?
So we've certainly had to switch some gears. So we've obviously we're all working from home. We don't have a huge staff. We've all had to sort of make some changes about how we operate. And then I think our primary customer, the people that we engage with the most, is churches, and they are all scrambling to figure out how to do church in a digital world in a way that they weren't doing it before, since they can't meet. So most of the churches that we've um, trying to interact with are just trying to keep things moving and aren't really interested in starting an orphan care ministry. And so we've had to make a shift in just sort of our approach and how we're approaching churches, and how we are trying to solve the same problem just in a different way. And so one of our favorite things that we do are match events, where a church will decide to host a match event, and we'll bring and invite uh, parents who are licensed to adopt, looking to find a kiddo for their family, and we'll represent kids who are waiting to be adopted in our community in the hopes to make match event. Get it? It's very clever. And so it's one of our favorite things to do, but we can't do those in person. And so we've had to shift gears and find a way to do that online, and not quite as awesome as being able to shake everyone's hands, but still cool. And so we've been doing that. So it's certainly slowed down our onboarding of new churches, and we're having to innovate and find new ways to do things. And then really one of the sort of biggest bummers of this is it's prevented us from being able to hold some of our fundraisers. And so that's been that's been a new challenge to deal with there.
What are some challenges you faced, and how have you overcome those? With like, what are you doing to overcome those difficulties?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, like the major difficulties in the change in our businesses, we're churches are their minds are in a different place right now, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that they can't do or they can't care for the vulnerable. We just have to change our model for how we engage with them. And so we've been just having to innovate. So if we can't have a match event at your church, how can we have a match event? So we've been having to figure out ways to do that, and then uh, really one of the things that I think might be most relevant to this, this meeting, and for people that are watching, is we've really made it an important thing to us that we stick to our mission. And so, since we've had a couple, I don't want to downplay it too much. We've had 3 fundraisers canceled, which accounts for about a third of our yearly budget. And so, though I'm hopeful we can reschedule, I know we can reschedule 2 of those 3 later this year, hopefully if the Rona goes away. But that's a major thing. Imagine a third of your budget is gone, and I totally feel the pull of, man, what am I going to do to make money? How are we going to keep this thing afloat? And honestly, I feel the weight. Man, I just feel the gloom of not being able to leave my house very much and all of those things. But in those times, and I think this is our strategy, but I think it's something that's relevant for everybody who's watching, whether you're a business, whether it's just you personally and you're stuck in your house and you just sort of feel the gloom of everything that's on the news is about people dying or struggling and the economy is crashing and all those things. Our strategy is to really focus on our mission and not the money. And what I mean by that, not that I'm just going to ignore the money, but what I think is that it's really, really important that we achieve our mission of helping kids find forever families. Because if I shift my strategy from doing that to focusing just on, man, how can I bring in more money? I think I'm removing the thing that makes us worth giving to in the first place. So instead of going, man, how can I make more money? I'm thinking, man, how can I still help kids? Because if I can serve these kids well, then I'm still a worthy place for people to give donations to. And so when I want people to be confident that whenever they're giving to us, that it's really helpful. And so what happens is we end up working harder to help people and serve people, which is really the key to fighting the heaviness that comes with a pandemic, with crazy times, crazy news. You feel the weight of those things. The best thing to combat that is helping people. You serve people outside of yourself. And it's really one of those crazy things. I know not everyone watching might be a Christian. Maybe some of you guys are, but I would call this a very kingdom principle. You're doing something that's not for you. It's for other people. It's for someone else. But what happens is you end up also receiving benefits, right? You feel, man, good. You just feel better. It's like a slap in the face. I've always been kind of a rebel. I don't like people to tell me what to do. So when the Rona's trying to tell me to be fearful or to be down or depressed, I just rebel against that. And I feel good when I help people. And so if I can help and serve one of these kids, or maybe a caseworker who's still having to make home visits, like that gives me confidence and makes me feel better. And it's a direct, pushes back against all the things that we're, supposed to be feeling in this time. And so